Welcome back to the Waiver-Wire show right here on Bleacher Report. You're with your host, Justin Henry, and for Bob Parmar, we are talking Week 14 Waiver-Wire. It is crunch time right now for all teams involved. And we have four teams on bye, which, some leagues even start their playoffs this week. And if you do that, we can't have that. No playoffs should be when byes are. But this is a very important week for waivers. Talk to me, man. How are you living on the other side over there?
Hey man, I'm blessed. I'm always gonna be blessed, man. I'm always trying to position myself a few weeks ahead. With all these leagues, we got some ups, we got some downs, but I mean, look, week 14, just like you said it, this is crunch time for a lot of teams right now fighting for a playoff spot. This is damn near the playoffs for you already. You got to win to get in. And nevertheless, bro, you got some buys right now. Christian McCaffrey. You got you know what I'm saying, a lot of people out there that on by basically the whole Niners offense, right? A lot of studs on that offense. But yeah, with that being said, man, tune in. We got you guys on some pickups.
Yeah, the Niners are on a bye. The Patriots, which have been a heavy hitter this year for fantasy, on bye. The New York Giants, and then nobody really starting a whole lot of Carolina Panthers. I mean, obviously, but still, we got to talk about it because we got options for you. And, I think this is also a time when like most teams have had their buys as well. So it's very important to think about the status of your league right now. Where are you at? Is your record 6-7, 7-6, and you need to find a way to scrap into the playoffs? Do you have a spot in the playoffs guaranteed already? Because these waiver wire pickups may not apply to you. So we have a few different options here, who need to win this week. Some that are a little future proofing as well to make sure you can get to the championship and win your league, which is the only goal here. But talk about a pickup that you have for this week or maybe coming up here, a pickup that's on your radar that people need to make in week 14.
Yeah, so I got to pick up, and this is for your 7-6 teams that are on the fringe. I know in a lot of leagues, if there's like a cluster of 7-6 teams and then 6-7 teams that are just out of the playoffs, it seems like that's the case for a lot of leagues. This guy I'm going to give
Yeah.
you here is not only going to help you out this week, but also if you also have to get points, this is a high upside guy, right? If you're competing with points against other teams, so if you're tied with somebody and you just are close in points and you got to edge them out, and that's a tiebreaker. I think Devon Vele is a guy you should pick up, right? Devon Vele, the reason why I say that, obviously a high upside guy. This offense is going to have to throw. That's the name of the game for the Saints, right? So a great matchup for you against Tampa Bay in week 14. Most likely going to be a shootout. And just the theme of this team is always playing from behind. So the game script is always throw, throw, throw. You're seeing Devon Vele now really taking advantage of the opportunities that he's getting. Since Rashid Shaheed got traded, he has really been their number two, right? So the snap share since he got traded, 87%, 89%, and 88%, 3 consecutive weeks. The last 2 weeks, he's been getting heavily targeted. Week 12, he had 7 targets. Week 8, you see he has 8 targets here, and he put up a performance. 8 catches, 8 catches on 8 targets for 93 yards and a touchdown. So the upside is there for this kid for all of the reasons that I've named. He's got a juicy matchup coming up against Tampa Bay, which is going to help you guys fighting for points. And also, Olave, right? We know Olave, we love Olave. He has an injury history and has been nursing a back injury. So just added, reasons to get him and pick him up. This is somebody who I would prioritize going into week 14 waiver wire pickups.
Yeah, and this is especially for those teams who do have like a receiver on by. If you were, rocking with Stephon Diggs or maybe you have Ted McMillan and you're just trying to look for an option there, a serviceable option to get you a win. And you're like, man, what's really out there on the waiver wire? And maybe you don't have any free agent butts, or maybe you don't have top priority. Devon Bailey is going to go under the radar, and he's been productive before in the past with the Broncos. He's being productive right now with the Saints. And especially as the Saints team continues to get bad, they're just going to whoever's open. They're not playing for like, hey, we got to get Alvin Kamara the ball. We have to get Chris. They're like, hey, yo, we're trying to win a game right now. We're trying to show production for our young rookie quarterback. So Bailey, I like that as a flex pickup. Good call there. And on the other side, obviously with like wide receivers, there's upside there. You might have a need, but I think the one thing you can start to do is really look at the running back position because I feel like that's where you can find little gems here. You can find some stability. And for those who have questions along the way, make sure you guys drop your questions in the chat because we're going to be talking about different receivers, running backs, etc., right here on the Bleacher Report app and on the YouTube. So make sure you drop them in there. But for those looking for running back help this week, Devin Singletary is not going to be the right option. But if you're looking for him for the fantasy playoffs, he is a very good option. The Giants have a bye this week, but we've been seeing an increase in carries for Devin Singletary. Plus, we saw him cross the 50% snap marker this week. So since Cam Skatteboo's injury, we haven't known, like, is it going to be Tyrone Tracy? Is it going to be Devin Singletary? We've seen weeks where they both have had, more carries or more production, but it kind of feels like Devin Singletary has taken over this backfield. And the thing is, we've seen Devin Singletary be the guy in this offense before, and it's not surprising to see him come off a game where he had over 60 yards and a touchdown. To me, that's worth rostering at this point because injuries happen to running backs. Weird things happen during the fantasy playoffs. And Devin Singletary, the playoff schedule is Washington, Minnesota, and Vegas. But we've seen him be productive in this role before, even splitting work. So I like Devin Singletary as an RB2-ish flexus type of pickup. Nothing that's going to take you over the top. But maybe one of those people you have on your bench, and if something goes wrong, you can put him in your lineup.
Yes, I love that pickup. And definitely flying under radars because he will have a bye. You probably don't have to spend anything on him with as much as teams are panicking. And just like you said, right? He is in a timeshare, but last 3 weeks, 16, 14, and 12, those are just carries. He also provides some help in the passing game. So it's good, man. It's Tyrone Tracy. He seems like a non-factor. So I'm with you on this Devin Singletary pick.
Yeah, and he got a
Sneaky
little
good.
banged up during that game as well. Like Tyrone Tracy
Yeah.
getting banged up, it obviously opens more doors. We don't know what that's going to look like coming out of the bye, but this is the type of player you're going to see a lot of people talk about, like Blake Corum or some of these other backup running backs. It's also okay to pick up running backs who have a clear path to touches at this
Yeah.
time right now, because sometimes you just need startable pieces. Week 14 goes by and one of your players gets injured or maybe they get banged up and they're questionable heading into the week and they have the Q tag going all the way up until Sunday and then they get put out. Now you have a player who you can put into your roster.
Yeah. And one more nice point about this, the Devin Singletary pick is this team just fired their head coach. Right now they're looking for players who have heart. They're trying to see who really is about it, who really is going to play. And if they're playing hard, they're going to be put in. They basically need to see who they got, who they're going to keep for next year. And if Devin Singletary is putting up these numbers, that just bodes well for his future.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's the one thing with these bad teams, P, is, you get production sometimes out of players. You got anybody else you're looking to to pick up this week?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do. I got some people to pick up this week. Listen, he's somebody who we dropped a name dropped a few weeks ago, and Adonai Mitchell, whatever you want to call him, finally showed out. So look, 12 catches, or 12 targets rather, 8 catches. 102 and a touchdown, right? So he finally had his breakout with his new team. Tyrod basically has this offense clicking, and it's a lot more predictable. It's a lot more stable than what you would seen from pass catchers when Justin Fields was on the field. So I like this pick. For those people who are worried about Garrett Wilson coming back, he is at least going to be out through week 14. So Adonai Mitchell is somebody who we've talked about being more of the down the field, stretch the field type of wide receiver. One of the only really weapons that they have that can stretch the field. So I'm really into this pick right here. In week 14, they go against Miami, and we just seen Devon Vele torch them for a big game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Adonai Mitchell really continues his breakout against them.
Well, and he's a good receiver. It's just
Yeah.
he obviously has to get things right up here, and that's been the thing with him is can he produce on the field? We know this, and it's the opportunities have been there. It just hasn't been matching the production. It hasn't been matching some of the stuff behind the scenes that we aren't all privy to. But I think with AD Mitchell, we talked about John Mechie on the show. This Jets offense is open. It's wide open, especially while Garrett Wilson's out. They're going to pass the football. They have to move the ball downfield. And AD Mitchell, John Mechie, I'm sure each one of these weeks is going to be kind of frustrating, but AD Mitchell does provide more talent and more upside than a John Mechie does. And even when Garrett Wilson comes back, I think AD Mitchell can still be a viable piece for teams, at least as a flex in 12 teams or deeper.
And yeah, that's the point I wanted to really point out. I think with Adonai Mitchell, the biggest difference between he and John Mechie, when Garrett Wilson comes out, I think that he and Adonai Mitchell can coexist. Whereas I think Mechie is going to be the biggest production faller when Garrett Wilson comes out, because Garrett Wilson is really known for intermediate routes, a solid route runner. He's going to really move the chains here for you. Adonai Mitchell is still going to be the one that they need to rely on to stretch the field and make the run game honest.
Yeah, great point there, Pete. And continue to drop the questions right here on the app, Bleacher Report app, and on YouTube channel. As we get into some of the questions, Pete, bench one in full PPR, DK Metcalf, Khalil Shakir, Jacoby Myers, and T. Higgins. Now, there's a lot here, right? T. Higgins coming back from the injury. Jacoby Myers stepping probably into a little bit better role with Parker Washington potentially being out this year. We're seeing DK be a little bit inconsistent. Shakir, which one of these players are you starting this week? Or excuse me, which one are you benching this week?
Yeah, so it's really between DK and Shakir for me. I think Jacoby's got a hold on that wide receiver one position there with the Jags. T. Higgins, you can never bench. And I'm just not going to bench DK if I'm choosing between he and Shakir. I know Shakir got targeted heavily, a week before last. It seems like that passing offense is struggling a little bit. And if you're just looking at it, you're going to want a pure wide receiver one for a team when you're choosing between the two. Shakir is going to get a lot of, for my A-Dot fans out there, he's going to get a lot of targets that are within five yards. You're going to want some of those more better targets, more quality targets that DK is going to give you. So give me DK, and I'm benching Shakir. I don't know if you feel any different.
Yeah, I think T. Higgins is a lock. I actually think DK is a lock. I think he's just one of those players you got to live with the upside and the floor that comes with his position every week. So it comes down to Shakir and Jacoby Myers for me. I think Jacoby Myers he stepped into a nice role with this Jags team, fortunately for him, after coming from the Raiders. So I would go with Jacoby Myers. Shakir, this team needs to lean on James Cook as they have been recently. And I think obviously Josh Allen, we know he'll use his legs, use his body in the red zone. I think Jacoby Myers offers a little bit more upside than a Khalil Shakir. I think we kind of answered this next one that came in and asked which Jets receiver. Obviously, you want Garrett Wilson when he comes back, but between AD Mitchell and John Mechie, P and I both agree on this one. AD Mitchell is the pick there.
Yeah.
Gabriel asked, drop Keenan Allen and Monty to pick up Strange, Isaac Tesla, AD Mitchell, Dontavian Wicks. We got more on a couple of these guys here, but are you dropping Keenan Allen and Dave Montgomery right now?
I don't know. I could see you making a case for both of them, but I just don't see how you can drop Keenan. I think he's too valuable. His offense is good. I don't see that you can drop those two. That's a common mistake people make. You got common names who may be in a slump, and then you see these players that we talk about. We're not saying to go drop, Keenan for an AD Mitchell or a Wicks or whatever. I wouldn't pick up Wicks regardless, but it's like a seesaw. If these players are in a slump, specifically talking about Keenan, because Monty has a diminished role, but if Keenan is in a slump, that slump is going to pick up at some point. And you don't. The last thing you want to do is drop him when he actually breaks out of that slump. So he has talent. He has a good quarterback. He has a role in that offense. I would not drop Keenan for any of these players that we're talking about.
Yes, most of these picks on the waiver wire, especially the ones that we're not saying, hey, this is a must pick up. These are if you have a need at the position, maybe you've been struggling for so long at a certain spot and you need a little bit of juice, or maybe you're looking for upside down in the fantasy playoffs. That's what you should be using the waiver wire for right now, because you should have a locked in starter, especially if you're fighting for a playoff spot. You should know who your guys are, and you trusted them all year long, all the way up until this week. I would almost never start AD Mitchell over Keenan Allen. Just putting out there, plain and simple.
Facts.
Would you start the two pickup guys over Jaden Higgins and Chris Rodriguez, Full PPR must-win week. It's a must-win week for a lot of people right now. But Devin Singletary obviously is on a bye, so we must be talking about Devon Vele and AD Mitchell. Are you starting those two guys over Jaden Higgins and Chris Rodriguez?
Great question. I'm starting them over Chris Rodriguez. Both of these guys that you mentioned are decent pickups, but these are floor plays, right? They're going to provide you a decent floor. Whereas Devon Vele, I would prioritize him over Jay Higgins, and I'm a Jay Higgins guy. But you could count on Jay Higgins to give you like a solid 10 points at least. If you're playing and you're in these playoff battles, and a lot of them are close, and it's going to come down to how many points, like that's going to be the tiebreaker. That's why I preface Devon Vele as my priority pickup because his ceiling, in my opinion, is significantly higher. He's getting the targets. He's a downfield type of guy, and he is their solid number two. So yeah, I'm prioritizing Vele, and then after that, we could talk about Jay Higgins. I'd probably even still prioritize AD Mitchell over Jay Higgins as well.
Interesting. Well, keep the questions coming in. This is really good, guys. And I know this is crunch time for a lot of teams. This is a must-win week for pretty much everybody that's fighting for a fantasy playoff spot right now. So let's help you guys out the best that we can, get you guys the knowledge. But we want to move on to the next player on this list. And this is a player who's stepping into a brand new opportunity, Isaac Tesla, who had 35 yards and a touchdown. It feels like every time this guy gets moved into a prominent role, he's scoring a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown could potentially be missing some time here. It looks like he's going to be week to week dealing with this injury. And it's not like Isaac Tesla is this, bum. He's a third round pick. And you and I talk a lot about this. Draft capital matters. When a team Amon-Ra St. Brown was a third round pick. So when teams decide that they're going to invest, that's a very clear sign to us, like, okay, they're going to be a prominent part of this offense. And we know, like, he's a bigger body. Jameson Williams, we know he has that downfield speed, but that's really his role. And one other thing, Sam Laporta is out for the year. So you're not only dealing with ARSB's injury, St. Brown's injury, you also have Sam Laporta who's out. You're kind of looking for not only a safety valve, but also a bigger body in the red zone. And so I think with this pickup, this is something that, like, I think as long as Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, Isaac Tesla is worth a start, especially this week. They're going up against Dallas, and we know how these receivers have been feasting against Dallas.
That's a fact. It's going to be a shootout. One of the things I was watching out for with Isaac Tesla is the health of not just Amon-Ra St. Brown. We know he's going to be out at least this week, probably even next week. But I was also monitoring Khalif Raymond, and because that's going to be somebody to eat into some other, eat into some catches and whatnot, what have you. But he is also going to be out as well. So Isaac Tesla, listen, we seen this guy limited action. He always shines. He always got some swag to him too. And a rookie with personality who can play. You can expect him to try to get him the ball because he looks like a playmaker in the making. So I'm with you on this Isaac Tesla pick right here. He caught a touchdown last week. I would anticipate another touchdown because they're going to be playing for points here. You got to keep up with this Dallas offense.
Yeah, low key, if you can snatch him away from the dynasty owner, I think that's one of those future picks that you make. You're like, ooh, I didn't know what I was getting with this player in his rookie year. Because they always say one of the rules about players is that their first touchdown tells a lot about their career. And I remember Isaac Tesla's first touchdown. It was a nasty one too, man. So what about any other receivers, P? You got any other receivers people can start to pick up this week and maybe in hopes that it can help bolster their team?
Yeah, so this week I'm going to be talking, or this pickup, wide receiver wise, I'm going to be talking about Jaden Reed. I really think that Jaden Reed is a solid pickup. Look, he's been out since week 3, right? We know he's a prominent part in this offense. They're in need really of wide receiver help, pass catcher help. Jaden Reed is expected to come back. He's been practicing. They're just waiting on his medical clearance right now, but he's going to fill the role of that slot wide receiver, which they needed so much. We've seen Wicks pop off. And Wicks is one of those players who has talent and hasn't put it all together yet. He's going to be one of those players you want to let somebody else waste their waiver wire bucks on him. Jaden
Facts.
Reed is a solid one here because if he plays this week, that's a plus. He's going against Chicago this week, but he has a decent playoff schedule. If you are on a bye week 1, that's great because they're going up against Denver. But after that, they got Chicago again, and then Baltimore for championship week. So both of those teams, those are going to be tough those are going to be competitive matchups, meaningful games. So they're going to need to be out there. And Jaden Reed is, like I said, when he steps into this role and he comes back healthy, which we're hoping is going to be this week because he's already practicing. I think that he's going to have a lot of activity and a lot of focus.
Well, it's easy to forget. Like Jaden Reed is a rock solid wide receiver three when he's healthy. Like they use him in multiple roles. And the good thing about even going up against like a Denver or maybe a Baltimore or some of these teams where the defense is good, they use him not just in the receiving game, but they use him kind of like Debo. They'll use him behind the line of scrimmage in the ground game. They'll get him on some reverses. They find creative ways to get him the football, whereas like Christian Watson, a lot of times they're looking deep downfield or looking to get him into space. And I feel like Jaden Reed is one of those guys they continue to get looks, and Dontavian Wicks is one of those players who, if it's not cooking for him and the matchup's not right, he's not part of the offense at all. So for me, I like Jaden Reed, and I think that would be the big question is like, which one are you picking up? I'm taking Jaden Reed out of those three moving forward. So for me, I agree with you, P, and I think it's a good time to be a week ahead when it comes to Jaden Reed if he's available in your leagues. I know some of you guys are going to be like, oh, he's not available in my league. He's on people's IR. But this is for those where they're available, all right? Let's go through some quick hitters real quick, P, on these questions before we get into the last player. You guys keep the questions coming in all the way through the show. Would Vele put up more points than Troy Franklin for the fantasy playoffs?
Troy Franklin has a role. I mean, I can see them being competitive. I just think that there's a world where Troy Franklin and the Denver Broncos can be up, and then lean on the run game, whereas Vele, most likely, they're going to be playing from behind and trying to keep up with points just because that defense is what it is. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're two comparisons. They're two good, kind of like equal players in my mind.
Yeah, a lot of mouths to feed in that Denver offense as opposed to the Saints offense. There's room for Devon Vele to eat there. Where's Christian Watson on this list? And we've talked about Christian Watson weeks ago. So he's not on
Yeah.
this list because we are proactive. And obviously, I think if Christian Watson is available, he has high upside. I'd rather have Jaden Reed when both are healthy because Jaden Reed's going to be a little bit more consistent. Watson is the upside. So if your team needs some upside, just know sometimes it comes with the floor. But I'm not mad if you want to pick up Christian Watson if he's available in your leagues. P, what about Mike Evans?
Yeah, Mike Evans, I was going to talk about him on this show, but in most leagues, he is just out of that range where we'd like to talk about players. He's around 60% owned. Mike Evans is somebody who, if he is out there, you should grab him. You could see inconsistency in that Bucks passing game. When he comes back, he's going to provide that consistency.
Yeah, they're saying he's back at practice already this week. The expectation that it's not going to be this week, and they have a short turnaround next week, Thursday night game, so it may not even be week 14. That's the only concern with Mike is that you might not get him, might not be week 15. You might not get Mike until week 16. That's the big concern here. Either way, pick him up. Either way, pick him up. Even if it's week 16 and you out the playoffs better than your team than somebody else's. Terry McLaurin or Troy Franklin in full PPR, I'm going Terry McLaurin 10 times out of 10.
I would go Terry McLaurin. I wouldn't do 10 times out of 10, but I'm going Terry.
I go. Hey, you know how I go. Most of the time,
Yeah.
I go with the talent. I go with the proven players. Even though Troy Franklin is having a career year, I think Terry McLaurin, no matter if it's Mariota at the helm or Jaden Daniels, I'm still going with Terry McLaurin. And then the last player on this list, P, Brenton Strange. Now, we talked about Brenton Strange at different times this year. I talked about him earlier in the season. You've talked about him more recently since he came back. And, I mean, the dude continues to produce, especially in this Jags offense. It kind of feels like he makes this thing a little bit more complete. Since he's been back, Trevor's been playing a little bit better. But not only that, we saw him get it in the red zone, got in the end zone last week. Parker Washington got a little banged up last game. And, I think Brenton Strange, for all the things that he is, can be that safety valve, that big body that Evan Ingram used to be for him. And we saw at times there was a lot of volume put his way. And if Parker Washington is out for an extended period of time, he's going to be the safety blanket. The inconsistencies have been there all season long with Brian Thomas. The team is trying to get help receiver by trading for Jacoby Myers. And they have a plus matchup this week against the Indianapolis Colts, who allow the fourth most points to the tight end position. Give me Brenton Strange as a good pickup for those who need it, especially for those who are without maybe Hunter Henry, if you're without George Kittle this week, if you're missing a tight end, Theo Johnson, for those who are starting Theo Johnson, go pick up Brenton Strange.
With you on that. We've talked about him a few weeks ago as well for all of the same reasons. This team needs healthy pass catchers. This team needs consistency at the pass catchers. And when Brenton Strange comes back, that's what they get. So, volume is king, and he's going to get that. So this is a plus pickup, especially if you're in a tight end premium league.
Yeah, and the thing is, this Jags offense should be better this week. Sauce Gardner dealing with an injury. Thankfully for this Colts secondary, it wasn't as major as it looked like it could be. It looks like it's still going to be a week-to-week thing, potentially be missing time here, but all the pass catchers on this team will benefit. And Brenton Strange really does help things move forward. So I think as this Jags offense goes, and as Trevor Lawrence goes, it helps him to have the bigger body Brenton Strange here available. And that might have been in my opinion, that might have been part of some of the inconsistencies for this Jags offense as a whole.
Yeah, I feel you on
All
that.
right. So Brenton Strange, obviously a good pickup this week, but you know what we got to do? We got to get right back into the questions because they've been coming in hot and heavy, and we got to get the answers for everybody who needs them.
Facts.
What about for Tyrone Tracy? Yeah, is that the type of player you would do a 1-for-1 swap with Devin Singletary? Would you drop Tyrone Tracy for Devin Singletary?
So this situation it's one of those situations where you can go into this matchup, wait for like the first slate of games, and then realize, oh, is this guy out here? This guy, and then you could pick up Devin Singletary, right? So, if you had to drop somebody, yes, you can. I would drop Tracy for Singletary just because the reasons I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I would. You kind of move into that spot, and the good thing is it's the bye week as well, so you can kind of evaluate your roster and your needs. Rude as Brian asked, I need a replacement for CMC? I have Zach Charbonnet, or should I pick up somebody? I honestly think Zach Charbonnet is one of those touchdown or bust options. He's tough to trust. I would go get Chris Rodriguez, and I think it's a very similar type of back, just has a starting role. I would feel a little bit more comfortable with that. And then also one thing to start to look at is the schedules here as well, because Zach Charbonnet, to me, a backup. Gotta look at the schedules. There's a lot there when it comes to Zach Charbonnet and a direct replacement this week for CMC as well. P, who you got out of these pick three? Michael Wilson, Jay Jettas, which is insane that we're even having this conversation about him. Terry McLaurin, Isaac Tesla, A.D. Mitchell, Devon Bailey, looking for ceiling options here.
So
this is half-point PPR, by the way.
Half-point PPR. This is good. This is good. So, look, it's been struggling. Keep JJ in there, all right? And we need ceiling plays. So I would still keep McLaurin in there. He's working his way back, got that touchdown late. And then I would go Vele. If we're talking about ceiling plays, you need points. I wouldn't be surprised if Vele is going to have another 80 yards and a touchdown minimum. That's just the role that he plays. So those are the three that I'm rocking with. Half-point PPR. Yeah, let's lock it in.
Yeah, I think Jay Jettas with JJ McCarthy back now, McLaurin, those are two locks. So you really are just looking for that pure upside. The volume can be there for Vele, whereas I think Tesla, you're depending on the touchdown. You also got Gibbs, Monty, etc. I'm with you there, P, on Vele. Need a tight end. Kittle on a bye this week. You got Johnson. I'm assuming that's Juwan Johnson because Theo Johnson's on a bye. AJ Barner. Colson Love with Evan Ingram or Colby Parkinson. And I'm going Evan Ingram here, who it looks like he's starting to get some of his mojo back. Obviously, a piece of this offense, all kind of low-level options for me. I'm going Evan Ingram. P, are you on the same page there, or are you going different?
I'm going to go a little bit different. I think I'm going to go Juwan Johnson. I think Evan Ingram he's had one good game, and a lot of people are jumping on him like that, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. It just depends on the flow. I'm going to go Juwan Johnson because they're always going to be playing from behind, and the last 2 weeks, Juwan Johnson's got 9 targets and 7 targets. Chase the volume.
Chase the volume. Last one that we're going to answer for today. Somebody dropped Jacoby Myers. Should I make a claim for him for $95? Your fab dollars. My second flex is DJ Moore. What I would do is look at your competitors. Obviously, look at how much fab they have, because if you make the fantasy playoffs, you might need some of that bread then. So if I were you, I would look at the next highest bid. If somebody has 94 and you think they're going to pick up a receiver, that's the only reason I would do 95. Otherwise, I might try to keep some of that bread for the fantasy playoffs. Look at other people's fab before you just say everything I have.
Look, hey, this is crunch time. If you need him to get in, drop that $95 and then worry about the rest next week. Look, Myers he's locked in for the number one wide receiver position on that team. He's really starting to ball in. He's clicking with Trevor Lawrence. So lock it in. 95. If you got 96, don't 96, man. Get it done.
Spin it, spin it, spin it.
Just throw the bread.
Listen, it is crunch time. And you do there's only one thing that matters this week for those, especially if you're watching this waiver wire show, that means you need to win. So we're going to help you get there. And we dropped already 6 players that we think can help you out for this week. The first one was Devon Vele, who obviously is a plus option at receiver for the Saints. Next is Devin Singletary. He is on a bye this week, so just be very careful with that. But assuming a little bit better workload in this Giants offense, A.D. Mitchell as well for the New York Jets there, going against Miami this week in a good matchup, has a lot of upside. We're finally seeing it starting to click there. Isaac Tesla against Dallas this week in a plus matchup. Jaden Reed, if he's able to make it back this week, and even for the future in the fantasy playoffs, is a good pickup. And then Brenton Strange, who is starting to come alive in this Jags offense and be a nice solid piece in consistency-wise for this Jags offense in a plus matchup as well. Mm-hmm. Listen, week 14, man, it is win or go home. This is the time to make the clutch decision-making, the clutch pickups. And listen, only one winner in fantasy playoffs. Don't come blaming us. Don't go blame yourself. Listen, you've done a lot of work to get here, and I know you want to win your league. You will. You will win your league. Just trust and believe. But make the right pickups this week, P. Any words of advice before we get off here?
Yeah, man. Look, it's tough because I'm a typically trust your studs type of guy. If you're in a win or go home position, go with somebody who has been balling and is hot the last few weeks as well. If you're dealing with somebody who is just kind of been a lame duck versus somebody who is hot, throw that person who is hot in. You know what I'm saying? Throw them in and then ride it. I mean, obviously, a lot of things go into that, matchups, weather, etc. But look, man, just get it done. Lock in, baby. It's time to lock in. And if you're with us, you've probably been locked in.
Lock in. Listen, last piece. Do not make any last-second changes on Sunday. If you go through the whole process this week, I know you're feeling the pressure. Trust your gut. Trust the work you already put in and get a win. For Bob Parmar, for myself, Justin Henry, you ain't lying about that. For myself, Justin Henry, for Bob Parmar, we will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.